The night my daughter-in-law tried to corner me into writing a $15,000 check, she thought she had already won. She had the venue booked, the guests invited, the decorations ordered, and my son standing silently beside her. What she didn't know was that I had already made a decision, one that would either tear my family apart or save my son from a life he didn't even realize he was trapped in. And before that birthday candle was blown out, someone in that room was going to learn the difference between love and leverage. I just never expected it would hurt this much. Welcome to my YouTube channel Whisper Stories, where silence speaks. My name is Emily Parker, and I am 58 years old. At 58, you think you've seen enough family drama to recognize it before it knocks on your door. You believe you can read the tone in a voice, the pause before a request, the subtle shift between asking and expecting. You tell yourself you are too seasoned to be cornered, too wise to be manipulated. You're wronged. Because sometimes pressure doesn't come like a storm. Sometimes it comes with a smile, a tilted head, and the words, "It would mean so much if you helped." And sometimes, the very people you raised with love test the limits of that love in ways you never imagined. It started with a phone call on a quiet Tuesday evening. I was sitting in my kitchen, the late sunlight stretching across the wooden table my late husband had built 30 years ago. The house was quiet, too quiet for someone who once raised 2 boys under this roof. Silence has a sound of its own when you get older. It hums with memories. My son Daniel had always been the louder one, the dreamer, the one who would run into the house shouting about soccer games and broken bicycles and school plays. He is 32 now, married. Married to Vanessa. Vanessa is polished, that's the word people use. She dresses like she stepped out of a magazine. Her nails are always perfect, her smile never falters. But sometimes perfection hides calculation. "Mom," Daniel said on the phone, his voice carrying a strange tension, "Vanessa wants to talk to you about something." I already knew I wasn't going to like it. Vanessa's voice slid into the line, sweet, controlled. "Hi, Emily, I hope you're doing well." "I am," I said. "What's going on?" "Well," she began, and I could almost hear her adjusting her posture. "Daniel's turning 33 next month, and I'm planning something special. A really elegant birthday celebration, a proper event." I stayed silent. She continued, "We've booked the Lakeside Grand Hall. It's going to be beautiful, catered dinner, live band, custom decor." That sounded expensive. "How lovely," I replied carefully. There was a pause. Then it came. "Daniel mentioned you've been doing well since you sold the old property, and we were thinking, since it's your son's big day, maybe you'd like to sponsor the event." Sponsor. Not help. Sponsor. The word clanged inside my chest like dropped silverware. "How much are we talking about?" I asked. "Oh, it's not too much," she said lightly, "just around $15,000. $15,000. For a birthday party." I felt the room tilt slightly. "I see," I said. "And of course," she added quickly, "it's for Daniel. He deserves something grand, and you always say you want him to have the best." That was the first push. Guilt wrapped in flattery. I didn't answer right away. You see, when my husband passed away 5 years ago, I was left with modest savings and a life insurance payout. I sold a rental property we had owned for decades. Yes, I was comfortable, but I was not wealthy. More importantly, I had plans. Quiet plans. Plans no one knew about. "I'll think about it," I told her. She didn't like that answer. I could hear it in the tiny inhale. "Well," she said, her tone tightening just a fraction, "the deposit needs to be finalized by the end of the week." Pressure. A ticking clock. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, staring at the kitchen wall. $15,000 for a party. When Daniel was 10, his birthday party had been in our backyard. Homemade cake, balloons from the dollar store. He had laughed so hard he fell off his chair. Happiness doesn't require chandeliers. But somewhere along the way, that lesson had been forgotten. 2 days later, Vanessa came over. She didn't call first. She arrived with a folder. A literal presentation folder. She spread out invoices on my dining table like she was pitching a business deal. "Look at this lighting," she said, showing me a photo, "and this cake design, it's custom." "It's very elaborate," I replied. She smiled, but her eyes were sharp. "Emily, I know you want Daniel to feel special, and honestly, his friends are used to a certain standard. We can't embarrass ourselves." Embarrass? There it was. I leaned back in my chair. "And if I don't pay?" I asked calmly. She blinked. "Well, we'd have to scale it down, and Daniel might feel disappointed." So now I was responsible for his disappointment. I folded my hands. "Vanessa, I raised Daniel to value people, not spectacle." Her smile faded slightly. "Times have changed." "Yes," I said quietly, "but values shouldn't." The room grew tense. She stood up abruptly. "I just thought you'd want to support your son, especially since you're alone now. It would be a nice way to stay involved." That sentence landed like a slap. Alone now. As if my widowhood was leverage. I stood slowly. "I will not be pressured," I said, my voice steady, "and I will not be guilted." Her face hardened. "Well, I hope you reconsider, for Daniel's sake." She left without another word. When the door closed, my hands trembled. Not from fear. From clarity. Because that was the moment I knew something had to change. You see, what Vanessa didn't know was that I had already prepared something. For months, I had been working quietly with a financial advisor. I had placed a significant portion of my savings into a trust. Not for parties. For Daniel's future. Specifically for something meaningful. Daniel had once dreamed of opening his own small automotive workshop. He had talent with engines. He talked about it in his 20s before settling into a corporate job he didn't love. I had saved $50,000. $50,000. Not to impress his friends, but to give him a foundation. I planned to tell him on his birthday. Not in a ballroom, but in my home, where it all started. The week passed in silence. Daniel didn't call. Vanessa didn't text. I assumed they took my hesitation as refusal. The day of the party arrived. I had not contributed a single dollar. Daniel came to see me that morning. He looked tired. "Mom," he said gently, "Vanessa told me you weren't able to help." There was disappointment in his voice. It pierced me. "I chose not to," I said honestly. He looked surprised. "Why? Do you believe love is measured by how much someone spends?" I asked. He frowned. "No, but it's important to Vanessa." "And is it important to you?" He hesitated. That told me everything. "I don't need a huge party," he admitted quietly, "but she already told everyone." I nodded. "I won't argue with her, but I want you to come over tonight after your event, just you." He looked confused. "Why?" "Because I have something for you." The party went on without me. I stayed home. I baked his favorite chocolate cake. The same recipe I used when he was 10. At 10:30 p.m. my doorbell rang. Daniel stood there in his expensive suit, tie loosened, exhaustion in his eyes. "Happy birthday," I said softly. He stepped inside. We sat at the kitchen table. No chandeliers. No band. Just the ticking clock and the scent of cocoa. "I'm sorry I didn't come," I said, "but I wanted tonight to be real." He swallowed. "It was beautiful, Mom, but it felt like a performance." I reached into the drawer and pulled out an envelope. Inside were the trust documents. He stared at the numbers. "Mom, what is this?" "It's for your workshop," I said. "Your dream, the one you forgot." His hands shook. $50,000. "Yes. For me." "For your future," I corrected. Tears filled his eyes. "You wouldn't pay for the party," he whispered. "No," I said gently, Because a party ends in one night, this can change your life. He broke down then. A 33-year-old man, crying like the 10-year-old, who once fell off his chair laughing. I thought you didn't care, he said. Oh, Daniel, I whispered, I care too much to waste what I have on appearances. We hugged for a long time. And in that moment I felt something shift. Not just in him. In me. I was no longer the quiet mother who could be nudged and cornered. I was a woman who understood the difference between giving and being used. Vanessa found out the next day. She was furious. How could you undermine me like that? She demanded over the phone. I didn't undermine you, I replied calmly. I invested in my son. You made me look foolish. No, I said softly, your priorities did. She hung up. But something else happened. Daniel started visiting more often. He talked about locations, equipment plans. 6 months later, he opened a modest garage. Nothing flashy. Just honest work. And he was happy. Truly happy. Vanessa struggled with the smaller lifestyle at first, but when she saw customers lining up, when she saw Daniel coming home proud and fulfilled, something softened in her. Not everything changes overnight. But truth has a way of settling in. Now at 58 years old, I sit in the same kitchen. But it feels different. Stronger. I learned something important through all of this. Love is not a blank check. Support is not surrender. And boundaries are not cruelty. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give your children is not what they ask for. It's what they truly need. Because parties fade. Lights dim. Music stops. But wisdom echoes long after the candles are blown out. And if there is a moral to my story, it is this. Do not let anyone pressure you into proving your love with money. True love invests in growth, not glamour. And sometimes the quiet surprise is the one that changes everything.